Hello students and welcome to Psychology 111 Week 1. This is Brother Riches and let's get into our first week of real material. First off, I want to say that I don't want to have a video like this every single week. Some weeks I would like to have a class discussion online in my online office that you can find through iLearn. So what I would like us to do first this week is to sign up on a doodle. So how you will do that is by going to this website here, and you'll input the times when you think you'll be available throughout the week. So think of your average week. I know depending on your schedule it may change a little or a lot depending on the week, but just do your best to think of your average week and plan around that. And because I want to have a set meeting time each week where if I choose to, we can have a class meeting online where most of the people can join in. So I know not everybody will be able to join in every single time, and some people might not ever be able to join in on those kinds of online class meetings, but I can record those and post those and you can watch them later, so you're not missing out on the assignment. You'll just unfortunately miss out on the discussion and back and forth during that time. So what I want us to do is pull out your schedules, take a look at them over the next semester. Think about what days of the week, what times of the day work better, and we will go to this website, Doodle, and I have a schedule put up there, and we will see if we can figure out a good class time to meet. So you should be able to hyperlink to this the same way you link to this video, but if not, type this into your browser, and I'll show you how this works really quick, because a lot of students haven't used Doodle before. So here I'm already at the website. What you're going to do is go and put your name into the doodle. Look through the times. I have it from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that would be 10 p.m. Mountain Standard Time or Rexburg Time. And you've got to make sure that it's in the right time zone. So check over here at the far right, and you can see the time zone. Change that if it hasn't updated automatically to where you are. Right now I am in the Pacific time zone, so that's accurate. If you're in Rexburg, it should be Mountain Standard Time, and then it'll all work nicely. So fill out what you're going to be able to meet at. So maybe I'll be able to meet the whole evening on Mondays. Maybe I can't meet Tuesday, but I can meet in the evening on Wednesday. So do that, go through, and then when you're done, press save. And you'll get this. And then what we can see, once everybody has filled it out, is what will work for everybody, or what will work for the most people. So go ahead and take a few minutes right now, pause the video, do that doodle right now. Alright, now let's get into some of the material for the week. Let's start off with the history of psychology in essentially one slide. Now I want you to realize this is a general psychology course. We're not going to be able to touch on everything, and we will miss out on a lot of great material that comes from psychology. Just because this is just a one semester course, we're trying to hit some of the main topics in most of the areas. So I apologize for that. If you know some interesting things from psychology that we don't touch on, the discussion board is a great place to bring that in, or our weekly meetings where we are together. Those are a great place to bring those things in. So please, if you have more knowledge than we are covering in the class, bring that in. So here we'll start off with ancient Greece. You read over a lot of this in your material for the week, or you will. So the first real writings that we have that influenced us today come from ancient Greece and those philosophers. And they thought a lot about human perception, human cognition. They thought about thinking, essentially. They thought about behavior, and that's where the primary writings came, and what much of science in general is built off of is the writings and thinking of the ancient Greeks. So just like other sciences, medicine, physics, those kinds of things came through that line. So did psychology. But we got more of a start with Wilhelm Wundt, and he was the first that really made psychology into a science. And then we continue on, and you read about a lot of different people, or you will read about a lot of different people in your material, to people like Sigmund Freud. Then we have over here the Bulbo doll experiment with Albert Bandura, the Milgram experiment more recently, and we'll talk more about that today in this presentation. And then more modern times, we've got some living researchers that are nearing retirement here that worked on a project called the Good Work Project. We have your BYU Idaho faculty and some new research teams that are being built. This is a team of researchers that I've been working with recently. So the main takeaways I want you to get from the history of psychology are that thinking about thinking, human perception, and behavior has been around for a long time, since the time of the ancient Greeks, at least. And there have been emphasis at different times on various theories. For example, Freud's theory is focused on psychopathology. Later on, there was more of a focus on behaviorism and kind of a mechanistic thinking of how humans behaved. And kind of behaviorists kind of ignored the cognitions, the thinking that we did. And that gave way to the cognitive revolution, where there was a much larger focus on the thinking that we did, the processing. As computers came out, it allowed researchers to make models and say, well, I think this is how the brain works, kind of like a computer processes information. And it kind of fought back against behaviorism. Then they kind of got together again, and everybody was happy. So at different times, different theories were the primary theory that was worked on, but there were always other theories surrounding it. Like even today, there are psychoanalysts that can trace their lineage back to Freud, their ideological lineage or theoretical lineage back to Freud. So in every point of history, there's many theories that are out there, and many of the psychologists that you'll read about lived at the same time as each other. So look at those dates as we go through each chapter, because you'll read a little bit of history through each chapter in the book about how that field came to be, and realize these all kind of started with Wilhelm Wundt, and they've continued on through then. So another key point about the history is that psychology is primarily a Western discipline. You can see here on this page there are a lot of European descent. And that is kind of a weakness of psychology. But a nice thing is that cross-cultural work has been increasing recently. And it will increase even more towards the future. So while psychology's history is very long, we can trace the ideas and thoughts back to the time of ancient Greece. It is also very short. Wilhelm Wundt was born in 1832 and died in 1920. So we can trace most of modern psychology back to there. So while the ideas have been around for a long time, it's also got a very short history. But that's also really impressive with how much we've been able to accomplish in such a short time. So let's move on to the schools of psychology. So your readings this week emphasize 7 different schools of psychology that you can see right here. And while these are influential, I think this list needs a few more. It ignores a few very influential areas of psychology that are growing in popularity, that are growing in research, that are growing in their applicability. So let's talk about those a little bit. I would split biological psychology off into neuropsychology, so emphasizing looking at the brain specifically, MRIs, things like that. Evolutionary psychology, which emphasizes theorizing based on evolution. Personality and social psychology. Social psychology has been a huge force in psychology ever since the beginning, and it still is. and personality psychology is right alongside it. They have some different ideas, but they have a lot of overlapping ideas, and a lot of programs in different schools have a social and personality program. So they are basically married in a lot of people's minds. Another one that I think is very important and that is gaining in importance in the world is positive psychology. And we'll talk a lot more about positive psychology as the course continues, because I would be considered a positive developmental psychologist. So positive psychology looks at human thriving, looks at how we can make people better, essentially, how we can give them more well-being, how we can make people more pro-social, things like that. And I could go into that a lot, and I'm sure I will throughout the course, so let's leave that at that right now. But even with these categories, we're still missing quite a few. So I want you to realize that this is a general psychology course. There's a lot more to psychology than just what is on this slide right here. In addition, your readings suggest that each of these schools of psychology have a different view of human nature, have a different set of views of what determines behavior, and different focuses of study. While that's a good way to think about these areas right now in the general psychology class, I want you to realize that in reality it's a lot more nuanced than that. There are researchers all over that are a mix of these things, such as I'm a positive developmental psychologist. A lot of my research is in social psychology realms, so I have bits and pieces from mainly those three areas. There's a lot of overlap between these, developmental and social psychology, cultural psychology. So while it's nice to think of them of having one set view of human nature and one set view of what determines behavior and one set area of study, in reality there is a lot of overlap. They work together to advance the field of psychology, and they are not as specified as maybe it's suggested in your readings. Next, we are going to talk about the ways we know things in psychology, basically the philosophy of science behind psychology.